Hey, David Wygant, 10-minute daily reality check. Today we're going to talk about ethics. The other day, my daughter and I were sitting in an outdoor cafe, and a bunch of people were not paying attention to the rules. What are the rules? No smoking in an outdoor cafe. I watched them light up, and I watched people around them look around and give them looks, and I thought to myself, is anybody going to be man enough to step up in Venice Beach, California, and tell these people that they shouldn't smoke there? Because apparently their self-absorbed behavior thought they can get away with it. Now, they were in their 20s, probably mid to late 20s. They're not idiots. They know they shouldn't be smoking in an outdoor cafe at all, but they didn't give a fuck about anybody else in the cafe who was having lunch. They didn't care. So I watched their behavior, and I was sitting there with my daughter, and I looked at her, and I said, I'll be right back. And she looked at me, she goes, where are you going? And I said, just sit here. I'll tell you when I get back. She was drinking a couple of smoothies, hanging out. I went to the person in the parking lot, which was about 10 feet away from the outdoor cafe, and I looked at him and said, excuse me, I'm about to be the ethics police right now. I'm under the impression that there is no smoking in an outdoor cafe. I haven't seen it in California in years. Most people who live in California know that there is no smoking at an outdoor cafe. So I said, there's a couple of people smoking back there, and they don't seem to give a shit about anybody else. What are you going to do about it? The guy looked at me and goes, thank you so much. We'll be back there in a minute. I went back. I sat down next to Layla again, and I looked at her, and I said, I went and told the guy who runs the store that they're smoking back here. They're not allowed to smoke. As the people came to the back to tell them not to smoke, somebody else walked over at that same moment and decided it was his turn to be the ethics police. Their reaction, the 20-something-year-olds, they go, what, this isn't like a French cafe? It feels like a French cafe. I thought we can smoke back here. Laugh, laugh, laugh. They got up, they walked away, they sat on the wall about 25 yards away and had their cigarette, acting like they didn't know any better. And that got me thinking. A lot of people act like they think there's nothing wrong with doing things that go against the grain. Literally, from smoking in an outdoor cafe, to running a red light, to texting while driving, to walking out of a store forgetting to pay for something. I mean, the list goes on and on. There are people who just lack moral integrity and lack ethics. They know the rules, but well, they think the rules aren't made for them. I remember one time I was with this person who lacks ethics all the way. We were coming back from a trip out of the country. We were in customs. There's signs everywhere that tells you not to look at your cell phone at all. She started looking at hers, looking through her texts, looking through emails, and I looked at her and I was like, they're going to say something. And she looked at me and she says, yeah, that's okay. The rules really don't apply to me. At that moment, I should have known that I was with somebody who lacked ethics and morals. Because as I've gotten to know her over the years, the rules don't apply to her at all. She lacks all ethics in all aspects of her life. She doesn't follow the moral code of appreciation and gratitude at all. And she truly believes that, the world revolves around her narcissistic ways. She lacks ethics. The other day, somebody emailed me, a woman. She was on one of those online dating apps. I think it was Bumble. And she literally told me that she went out with this guy. He was smooth. He was debonair. He was handsome. And he tried to sleep with her on the first date. Not rare for men. She ended up finding out at the end of the first date, when she didn't want to sleep with him, she ended up looking him up on Facebook because it wasn't hard. She found out his last name and found out, guess what? He was married. He had kids and he had a wife. So she checked out the wife's page and saw the cute, adorable kids. Gee, I wonder what they would think if they knew daddy was trying to go and have sex behind mommy's back. What would the wife think? So the woman wrote me an email and said, David, I want to tell the wife that her cheating, miserable husband tried to come on to me in a bar and he's on Bumble. And I thought to myself, she wants to be the ethics police. My advice to her was, well, do what you need to do. Because here's how I feel about people that don't give a shit about other people. They're going to get what's coming to them. They're immediately going to get what's coming to them. There's going to be somebody that just wants to fix them, aka Ray Donovan style, for those of you who have watched the Showtime show. Let's call it, for the sake of the podcast, they're going to get Ray Donovan at one point in their life. There's going to be somebody that they come up against that they're going to play their usual games on, their lack of integrity, their narcissistic way of living. They're going to come up against somebody who's going to look at them and go, fuck you. Or more like as Scarface said, fuck you. And they're going to literally get down, get beaten, and they're going to be thrown in their place. You see, people who lack ethics eventually will run into somebody who doesn't fucking give a shit about them. And it might be as simple as outing somebody at a cafe that was smoking, or literally calling somebody's wife up on the phone and saying, I went out with your husband the night before and I thought you should know that. Because I've been on the other end of being cheated on, most likely this woman's thought process, because she was taking it very personal. And she felt like this woman had to know. At one point in our life, all of us are going to be the ethics police. All of us are going to run into some type of moral contract, meaning somebody's not going to literally have morals, and we are going to be the person that's going to wake them up. Because that's how the universe works. People who constantly get away with things and keep screwing people over, whether it's monetarily, whether it's smoking in a cafe, whether it's cheating on their wife through an online dating app like Bumble, eventually will run into Ray Donovan and get Ray Donovan. Eventually you're going to run into somebody who doesn't fucking give a shit about you and doesn't care about your bullshit. You see, if you're living an unethical life and you're constantly trying to get over on people, eventually you're going to run into that person that is going to look you in the eyes and go, fuck you, I'm taking you down. And I'm going to do it with pleasure. Because eventually you screw the wrong person. When you screw the wrong person, that's when the path ends. That's when, hopefully, the unethical narcissist gets the lesson they've needed to learn for a long time. Now, there's no guarantee that the narcissist will get that lesson. Even after they're outed, they may still find to sweet talk their way out of it, come up with reasons, excuses, lie like crazy, because that's what they do. They're living a lie. And the person they're with, well, may or may not believe them. But here's the deal. If we all practice ethics, when we run into these unethical people and we out them, guess what happens? Maybe the world starts to realize that there are a lot of Ray Donovans running around. And if you fuck someone over via money, via sex, via anything, smoking in a cafe, who cares what it is, maybe eventually you'll learn your fucking lesson and you'll stop being such a self-centered, narcissistic pig. Because you know there's a band of Ray Donovans out there ready to fucking fix you and ready to kick your ass when you pull this shit on innocent people. There's my taking on that. That's how I feel about the ethics police, and that's today's 10-minute daily reality check. Spread it around. If you know an unethical person, maybe this podcast alone might have been their eye-opener. Maybe this might have been the thing they needed to hear, so post this on a narcissist's wall today, outing them literally and saying, hey, this podcast might be for you. You might need to listen to it. Or maybe you are one of those people that are constantly kind of fucking around and trying to beat the system and screw other people. Maybe my words resonated with you. Anyway, there's the reality. I'll see you tomorrow on the 10-Minute Daily Reality Check.